Video is to go over the rules and grading and then the grading rubric for this economics course. So I'm not going to spend all the time um, reading everything to you. I'm just going to highlight some things, but it's going to be your responsibility to go through this, print out the rules, print out the grading rubric, and make sure that it gets into your 3-ring binder. I am going to be doing what's called flip mastery, and that just means you are not going to be able to move on to the next unit until you have mastered the current unit. And the flip part is the fact that all of my lectures are on video, and you'll be using this web page to move through it. Some of you are going to be moving faster than others. Some of you are going to be needing to use a little more time, and that's okay. But it's all on your own pace, and you are responsible for making sure that all units are completed to a mastery level by the end of the semester. If you finish early, you finish early. Make sure you get a 3-ring binder for this class that has dividers in it. That is what you are going to be using to show me that you have evidence that you have mastered this, the material that's in a specific unit. I am going to give you everything that I think is sufficient, including some additional activities if you don't get it the first time, to help you work through those. Testing. You are the one that gets to determine when you feel you have mastered a skill to a level of a 2, and we're going to look at the grading rubric here in just a few seconds. If you receive a not there yet on a test, this is because you've told me that you know it, I've given you the test, and I graded, and you just haven't learned it yet. You will have the opportunity to retest. You will have to fill out a request for retest form. Your parent is going to have to sign this, and then you're going to have to do the additional or some additional activities to be able to do this retest. If you are unhappy with your grade, if you get a 3 and you want a 4, then you can also fill out that form, have your parents sign it, do the additional activities, and then we can get you retested. There's not going to be any retests during the last 2 weeks of school because we will be doing some testing out for the final. Redos are at my discretion. If you think that you're going to continually take a test and then retest and all that, that's just not going to happen. If I see that's a pattern that you are falling into, you and I and your parents will have a discussion and we'll work something out. So I have the option of rescinding that offer to retest, and if I do that, then you're going to keep that 0. Here's the grading scale, and we're going to look at, like I said, that rubric here in a second, but eventually at the end of the 9 weeks and at the end of the semesters, I'm going to have to average your grade. So this is the grade that will be how I calculate your 9 weeks grade and your semester average. So there's the grading scale. You need to make sure you print this off so that you have a copy of this. There are different types of assessment. Formative, these are just graded for instructional purposes. I'm not going to put these in Skyward. These are going to go in my paper grade book. The summative assessment is the standard test that you are accustomed to. This is the one that is going to go in Skyward. And if you do the retesting, the most current grade is going to go in. So if you go backwards and you do worse, then that's the grade that's going to be in there. Homework and classwork, this is going to be checked. It's to be used as a study reference, but it's not going to be recorded. You need to make sure you're in the room when the bell rings. I appreciate that. And then just make sure you have your laptop, your 3-ring binder with you with the dividers and all that. So that binder also needs to be dedicated just to this class. And then here is the grading rubric that I am going to use. And it's not very specific because I will be giving you some I can statements and a checklist for each one of the units. But this is the rubric that I'm going to be using for each one of the units. A 4+ means you know it. You have clearly answered everything. There is absolutely 100% no question in my mind that you understand what you're talking about. You don't need help with word banks. I'm not going to count off for spelling errors as long as I can phonetically sound out what you're saying and then I can read your writing. If I can't read your writing, then I can't determine if you know what you're talking about. 4 meets the above expectation, and there are just very, very trivial errors. This is still your A. 3 meets expectations, but you might have a few gaps. You might have something that makes an answer incomplete. incomplete, you might need to revise a little bit, you need a little more explanation so that I know that you know what you're talking about. A 2, you have partial understanding and you have significant gaps. You have incomplete evidence, incomplete answers. There is enough for me to know that, yeah, you're kind of in the ballpark knowing what you're talking about, but there's just some evidence lacking that I question whether you completely understand the standard. And then the not there yet. There clearly you do not know what you're talking about, or you have not given me enough evidence for me to give you credit that you do know what you're talking about. Not there yet during the 9 weeks will be averaged as a 0. But when we get to the end of the 9 weeks and the end of the semester, I will look at your semester grade on that particular standard and decide if that's a D or an F. So you're not going to necessarily get an F on that particular standard if you can show me that you did learn something. So make sure you print those 2 out.